Our president and future governors should tell their public service commissioners to begin to identify suitable sites for new small nuclear stations, starting with the field in Vernon, which ratepayers have now spent $248 million to prepare. This is John McClory. Thanks for listening.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Want a college degree but not sure how to pay for it? Or are you a recent graduate and want to pay off those school loans? The Vermont Army National Guard could pay up to 100% of your tuition or get up to $50,000 in loan repayment. Experience the personal fulfillment of serving your community in Vermont during emergencies and natural disasters as you serve in the Guard part-time. Learn more at nationalguard.com. Sponsored by the Vermont Army National Guard, aired by the Vermont Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Take a walk down Main Street, any Main Street, and what do you see? Unfortunately, during COVID-19, many businesses have had to limit their hours. Some have furloughed staff or cut wages. Others have shut down completely.
A loss of income for many can have serious consequences, as people often must leave their neighborhoods and homes in search of more affordable housing. Added to this heartbreak, some people of color face housing discrimination as they look for new homes and are shut out of certain housing opportunities because of their race, color, or national origin.
This must stop. COVID-19 inequity is real, and it shouldn't be made worse because of housing discrimination.
If you suspect housing discrimination because of your race, color, or national origin, file a complaint with HUD so we can investigate it.
To learn more, go to HUD.gov/fair housing. Fair housing. The law is on your side.
A public service message from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
The Patriots are now closer to the bottom of the AFC than the top. That's a fact.
The stories that matter to you.
Trevor Story, man, he makes the Red Sox much, much better in 2022.
This is your home for New England sports.
I'm just wondering what happens next for UVM, because I think there could be a lot of turnover on that roster.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in on a Friday on the Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Short show today. We're up until 6:10. Then we bring you Red Sox baseball. Sox open up a new series with the Chicago White Sox. Boston 10-16 and looking to get going. Reminder, by the way, know this. This series is going to be really hard for you to watch on television. So the radio is your friend. And it's free. Remember that. Tonight, the game is on Apple Plus and only Apple Plus. You can't watch it on Nessun. You can't find it on ESPN Plus. It's only on Apple Plus. So this one, hard to watch. Radio is your friend. Our coverage begins at 6:10. Sunday, Mother's Day, early game, 11:35 is the first pitch. That game is only on Peacock, I believe. So that could be hard to get for a lot of people. So the radio is your friend. And remember, we are free. So there's your little PSA there. So we'll talk to you right now about the Red Sox as we go up until 6:10. Some notes on the Patriots, the Celtics as well, who take on the Bucks tomorrow afternoon in Game 3. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line at 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, my Twitter account, and get in all those places. Everybody, let's waste no time.
5, 4, 3, 2,
1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. The Red Sox are bringing up outfield prospect once again, Jaron Duran. They're doing this because Kike Hernandez is not feeling well. He's been put on the COVID list. He has not tested positive for COVID at this point, but he is exhibiting symptoms, so he is on the COVID list. Rich Hill is also on the COVID list, even despite pitching yesterday and pitching very well. So first and foremost, I hope that Rich Hill and Kike feel better. I hope they don't have COVID. I hope they're okay. I hope they get well soon, and I hope that they are back soon. Secondly, on just the baseball-only perspective of this, I think that Jaron Duran should now be up permanently, and I think that Jaron Duran should be here to play every day. He should be in Boston to stay. He should be in the lineup. He should be taking the repetitions of one Jackie Bradley Jr. on most nights. This is now the right thing to do. I don't need Jaron Duran to be here for a cup of coffee until Kike feels better. I don't need him to be on the bench and come out as a pinch hitter or a pinch runner or a defensive replacement. I don't need him to be a platoon guy for somebody. I need to see Jaron Duran for a long look. It is just time. You need to see what you have in this kid. I get it. He came up last year, and he was largely awful. Yes, he had a few nice moments.
1-0 pitch is lashed the other way. This ball hit well. It is back, and it is gone. Duran goes back-to-back with Kike, and the Red Sox lead it 4-0.
So I get it. There was a couple of good moments, but he was largely awful last year. But he's been really, really good at AAA this year, hitting .370 with a .460 on-base percentage in his first 63 plate appearances at Worcester in AAA. He's 25 years old. He's got great speed, which this team does not have a ton of. He's got some power, but more importantly, it's just time to see what you have officially. Like I just said, Jaron Duran is 25 years old. This isn't where he's 20. This isn't he's 22. 25, that's an age where guys are impacting baseball teams. That's an age where some guys are carrying baseball teams. So is Jaron Duran an answer for me in the future or not? You need to start getting that answer. Is he a guy that I can pencil in as a starter for next year when both Jackie Bradley and Kike Hernandez are free agents and could be gone? I've got to know if he's somebody that I can count on. It's time to give him that long look. If he's not the answer for the future, then you've got to know you've got to address even more in free agency in the offseason. Jaron Duran needs to play. You need to get a look on him. You need to get an answer on him, because if he's good, great. You're set next year at one outfield position, one more outfield position. If he's bad and you need to cut bait, then fine, but you need to do more than in the offseason. You need an answer on Duran so you can start to figure out the answers for your entire baseball team. I've said multiple times, I'd trade Duran potentially as part of a deal for some pitching or a more established offensive piece. Don't you also want to know and see if he's good enough to know if he has that kind of trade value? Because you're not going to find that answer solely in AAA anymore. If he's a guy that can be dealt, teams are going to want to see him do it at the major league level. This works on every level. The team right now needs a jolt. Maybe Duran can provide it. He certainly can't hurt it. In the future, you want to know if he's your guy, and you also want to know if he can be somebody else's guy so you can trade him. Jaron Duran is up. That makes me happy. Jaron Duran now needs to stay. It's time to do something different for the 2022 Red Sox, and the front office needs the answers as well. I don't think that bringing up Jaron Duran is punting on the season. I don't think it is, nor do I think that it should be. Jackie Bradley Jr., he hit well yesterday. He had 2 hits, but he's hitting 200. I'd rather let Jaron Duran hit 200 and get the answer on him than keep playing JBJ. All along, Jackie Bradley belonged as this team's fourth outfielder. It's time to put him in that spot. I believe that with prolonged playing time, Duran can provide at worst comparable offense to JBJ, and at best, he can provide the spark and infuse some excitement in this offense that drastically needs it. You know, the one thing I do have an issue with is Jarren Duran is hitting leadoff today, and we'll give you the lineups here at about 6:05. Duran's hitting leadoff. I'd rather him hit at the bottom of the order. A couple of different reasons. One, Duran came up last year and was awful, right? So now you put him in the leadoff spot like, hey, kid, the guy that we just signed to a 6-year, $140 million deal, Trevor Story, that guy right now isn't working out at leadoff. You go do it. Oh, okay. I got to replace the multi-time all-star. I don't need Duran to have that kind of pressure. And secondly, the Sox 7 through 9 hitters are last in baseball in OPS. There would be no harm in putting Duran down at the bottom of the order. He could not be any worse than those guys. And just maybe if you put him 7th or 8th, he can give you some punch at the bottom of the order. So I'd rather see him hitting down there, but I am happy that he's up and he's playing tonight. He needs to stay there. He needs to stay there. I heard Tom Caron of Nesson say it to us earlier this week. Rob Bradford of WEEI said it earlier this week on the pregame show right here on WDEV. It's time to see what Duran can do. 25. That's no spring chicken in prospect world. I can't just hold this kid down there until he's 26, 27, and then say, hey, we'll bring him up. 25. This is the time. This is the time. Make it happen. If he's good, then great. If he's bad, well, then that sucks, but at least I know what I'm working with for the future. The Red Sox have a lot of free agents next year. Evaldi, Hill, Waka, Kike, Bradley. There's going to be some turnover on this roster. You want to know where you need to make moves and where you don't. It's why I'm in favor of keeping Garrett Whitlock in the rotation, and it's why now I'm a proponent of putting Jarren Duran in the everyday lineup for a while. Look, if after a month and a half he's hitting 127, then you can send him back down, but you got your answer. But if after a month and a half he's hitting 265, well, then maybe you got your answer for the future too, and it helps this year's team. That's what I'm in favor of. It is the Brady Farkas Show. The Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line is open at 802-585-3026. As the Red Sox welcome the White Sox, and as the Red Sox are 10-16, I am very worried about the state of the Red Sox. And I think you should be too. And Buster Olney of ESPN told us yesterday he was also.
I think we definitely have gotten to that point where it is time for major concern. With all the issues going on between the offense and Trevor Story struggling, it does feel like the Red Sox need a major reset and major conversation, something, especially with how well the Yankees and the Blue Jays are playing.
I'm worried about the Red Sox for multiple reasons, but these are the two biggest ones. One, a lot of the teams in the American League, they're good. There isn't an easy avenue to get to the playoffs. Even if the Red Sox start playing better themselves, the odds that they can just start racking up wins and passing everybody, that's not great. Like, you're going to lose games by virtue of a lot of good teams being in the AL. Yankees, Rays, Jays, they're all in your division. They'll all be tough. You're going to lose some games there. You're going to fall further behind in some cases. You're not just going to be able to pass guys because you're not going to sweep series. Angels, who you just saw, if they're healthy, they appear to be good. The Astros appear once again to be good. The Mariners have lost 8 of 9 right now. At the moment, they're awful, but they may end up being good too. They may go on a run and may be hard to pass. The White Sox and Twins are good. Like, there's not a whole lot of freebies in the American League. It's hard to come back from a big hole. I mean, the Red Sox are already 5.5 games back of the wild card. I don't care much about the wild card standings. 3.5. We are 1 month into the season. I don't care much about the wild card standings 1 month into the season. But If you're 8.5 out in the division and 5.5 out in the wild card, and you're near the bottom of the league, you're currently tied with the Orioles for last place in your division. You could be in last place by the end of the night tonight. That's a lot of ground to make up, even already a month into the season. So no, I do fear that eventually the hole is going to get too big. And then two, Lee Cattell was saying this to me earlier on the midday news service. Like, the thing that has people excited about this team is something that is a huge question. People are waiting for Chris Sale and for James Paxton to come back. So you're telling me that I'm supposed to be eagerly waiting for a pair of 30-plus-year-old pitchers, one who came off Tommy John surgery last August and another who is coming off Tommy John surgery now? These are supposed to be my saving graces? This doesn't elicit a whole lot of excitement from me. I have no idea what to expect from Sale and Paxton. Sale's been hurt almost every year that he's been here, and Paxton has been hurt a lot in his career. When he got to the Yankees, he was hurt a lot. Tommy John surgery last year when he went back to Seattle. Like, I don't know if either one of them will really help, and I certainly don't think that they can come and just save the entirety of the season. They're not going to fix the offense that's been a problem, that's down near the bottom of the league in every metric. This team has deeper needs, and I look now and I think these pitchers are not going to solve all of them. Let's take a couple of texts. Phil in Middlesex actually said this to me earlier in the week, and I've been wanting to get to it. Says, Brady, now is the time to trade Xander Bogaerts. You can get a huge haul for him. Well, one, I don't know if you can get a huge haul for him. In fact, I would doubt that you can get a huge haul for him. Xander Bogaerts is a great player. He'd certainly yield you something nice in a trade return. But I don't think he'd get you as much as you think. He's basically a free agent at the end of the year because of this opt-out. So teams don't mortgage entire farm systems for that situation. Look at what you got from the Dodgers for Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts had 1 year of team control. They were going to get him for a full year in LA. You got good catching prospect, above average infield prospect, and you got one major leaguer in Verdugo. That's a pretty good haul for Mookie. Bogey's he's gonna have less than half of a team year, or less than half of a year of team control. I don't think you're getting as much as you got for Mookie even. I don't think you're getting somebody's like 1, 2, and 3 prospects for 2.5 months of Xander Bogaerts. I also think it's interesting, something that Buster told us yesterday.
I'm sure it's going to be discussed. Not only him, but then, Rich Hill and Michael Wacha. You could begin to look at different pieces and parts. You and I have talked about how embarrassing the negotiations for Bogaerts were and how strange the 1-year extension offer was when you compare that with what Trevor Story got, with what Javier Baez got. So I think the idea that they would, look at midsummer and do a sell-off, that might work if you're like a mid-market team. It's not going to work in Boston. That's not going to play.
Interesting. I think if the Red Sox are way out of it, you will see a sell-off of guys that we don't care about as much. Hill, Wacha, maybe even Kike. But trading away Bogaerts will be on a whole different level there. So I really think, not to get way inside baseball, I really do think that the July 25th deadline for the qualifying offer kind of looms large here. I think that is a really big deal in this whole thing. Like, if they're truly going to get nothing if Bogaerts leaves, then they're more likely to trade him. If the qualifying offer stays here, well, then I think they're more likely to try to keep him, play it out, see what happens in the offseason. All right. There is one thing I want to play here. Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe talking about kind of where he puts the blame for this whole Red Sox mess.
I blame ownership. You know me. It's like Chaim Bloom. These aren't his decisions. I mean, he's been told to cut costs. Do what you have to do to cut costs. Be Tampa. We can win just as many games and spend half the money. That's what they're aiming for. And it's blowing up in their face. The worst thing, in my view, that could have happened was the hint of success last year. They crept into the playoffs by a 1 game, got in, then played well. Wiped out the Yanks in the 1 game, wiped out Tampa, pretty good. It looked like they were going to wipe out Houston. I think that deluded them into thinking we got this figured out. Watch us go now.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement with Dan Shaughnessy here. I agree with that sentiment totally. I think the Red Sox massively overreached last year. You know, I wasn't a believer in them until like late July at the earliest last year. I never thought they were as good as their record was indicating. I do believe that success changed how ownership felt about the team. I think last year was supposed to be a rebuild year. They massively overachieved. This year, they went in feeling like they could just tinker and everything, you know, and feel like they didn't have to do that much in order to get over the hump. That's why you saw them go for Rich Hill, Michael Wacha. That's why they didn't go for Carlos Rodon or Noah Syndergaard or Justin Verlander. They didn't do a ton in the pen, like going after Kenley Jansen. I think they just thought, oh, we were so good last year, we can just tinker a little bit. We have to give them credit for going after Trevor Story, but by and large, I think ownership saw how good they were last year and just assumed they were in that same spot again this year. And I don't think that's clearly not the case. I think last year their record definitely gave a false idea of how good the Red Sox were. Again, they did it for a whole season, so congratulations to them. But I think ownership needed to take a deeper dive at everything and say, you know what, we're probably not as good as our record indicates. We get a message on the text line that says, I wonder if the Reds would trade Luis Castillo for Bogarts in his walk year. I have to assume that that is a shot at the Reds front office from a Reds fan here on the Brady Farkas show. The Xander Bogaerts has a no-trade clause. We do have to remember that. Like, he has a no-trade clause. So he might waive it to go to a contender. He's not waiving it to go to the Reds. So I think that was more of a shot at the Reds than it was any actual serious entertainment of a conversation. But Xander Bogaerts has a no-trade clause. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. A couple of pieces of audio I want to play you from a couple of new Patriots who spoke this week. We'll tell you what Mac Wilson and Terrence Mitchell had to say. That's next on DEV.
Hey, it's Charlie Papillo. Please join me every other Monday from 1 to 2 for Travels with Charlie, Vermont politics in real life. We'll have discussions with the Vermont newsmakers that affect our lives and open up the phone lines to get your thoughts and opinions on the day's hottest topics. Plus, we'll make sure to have a little fun while doing it. Travels with Charlie, Vermont politics in real life, brought to you by Jolly Convenience Stores, Milne American Travel, and Casella Waste, right here on WDEV.
Hi, this is Marcy Pelkey from the Friends of the Waterbury Public Library. The Friends would like to invite you to join us for our annual afternoon tea on Sunday, May 15th at 2 p.m. in the Steel Room at the Waterbury Municipal Center. This year's tea will feature a Vermont Humanities Council Speaker Bureau presentation from Yvonne Daly on the counterculture's impact on Vermont and Vermont's influence on the counterculture generation. Come learn about the flood of young migrants in the late 1960s and 70s who turned their backs on the establishment and moved to rural Vermont, spawning a revolution that would have a lasting impact on the state's politics, agriculture, education, business practices, and culture. Enjoy tea, coffee, lemonade, and refreshments, and the company of other library supporters. We hope to see you there on Sunday, May 15th at 2 p.m.
For 90 years, WDEV has been Vermont's news station. A lot has changed since 1931, but the need to be informed is more important now than ever. This is Jennifer Kuiper. Our coverage of international and national events, coupled with WDEV's focus on state and local happenings, provide Vermonters with a comprehensive look at the news. WDEV, keeping an eye on Vermont, while CBS keeps an eye on the world.
Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
This is former NFL wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson, and now we're back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV Radio and WDEVradio.com.
Thank you very much, Keyshawn. Brady Farkas Show back at it here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Couple of interesting pieces of audio this week came out of Foxborough at Patriots Place. A couple of new Patriots spoke on joining the squad, and here's Terrence Mitchell, the defensive back, who's going to pair with Malcolm Butler, at least as of now, to form what we think is the Patriots' top two DBs.
And we think about as a kid, you know, NBA, you got Phil Jackson, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls. And when you think about NFL, you know, dynasties like the Patriots, man, like there's no other. So, you know, I think every kid, you know, growing up in this era, seeing the Patriots and being able to play for them is just like, you know, it's crazy. So, you know, that's self-explanatory right there, man. The Pats, that's the team for real.
You know, I thought that was interesting. I've always said that different things motivate different people, but this is really the first time that I've really sat and realized how influential the Patriots were to some people growing up. Like when I think of iconic NFL franchises and iconic brands, we all think of the same ones: Steelers, Cowboys, Raiders, Packers. I've never really thought about the Patriots as an iconic brand, but to people of this age group, I think Terrence Mitchell is 29 heading for 30, I think. So he's in my age group. Like people in our age group, the Patriots are an iconic brand. For people people between 20 and 30, I think the Patriots are in that stratosphere. So, you know, I may look at it and think, or someone else who's 40 may say, oh yeah, playing for the Raiders would be iconic. Well, playing for the Patriots is iconic to somebody of Mitchell's age. And I had never really thought like that because I've been inundated so much with history of the NFL. Well, the Patriots they're front and center in history to people of this age. So I thought that was interesting that Mitchell said, look, I want to be a Patriot. I've seen them win a lot. Like to him, they are the Yankees. To him, they are the Lakers. To him, they are the preeminent franchise. Now, look, he needed a job, and I'm sure he would have signed with Jacksonville if it was the only place that would have him. But when it came down to it, a chance to play for the Patriots was certainly something that he was excited by because to him, that is a historic franchise in the league. Mack Wilson is a new linebacker for the Patriots. They got him in a trade from the Cleveland Browns. He was at Alabama, a little older than Mac Jones, but he remembers a young Mac.
Like I remember Mac when he was a pup, you know, and just seeing, you know, how much he grew as a person and a player. It amazed me, you know, because growing up and obviously when we was in college, you know, I was telling everybody back home, friends and family, like Mac Jones gonna be special.
Mac Jones was going to be special. I got to give Mac this. Mac Jones seems to be very well liked by his teammates. And I think that's really important. And maybe, you know, that goes without saying, like you want your quarterback to be liked. You want your quarterback to be a leader. But Mac Jones does seem to really make an impact on people. And when Mack Wilson is an older player who's a defensive player, you know, you think that maybe he's not a guy in college that Mac Jones would connect with. Like, think about when you were in college. You're a freshman and you're talking with juniors or seniors. Are you making great friends with those guys? Not necessarily, especially when they're not on your side of the ball. Mac Jones was still able to connect and make an impact with Mack Wilson. And that has been a general theme about Mac Jones, that he's well-liked, that he's a good leader, that he makes an impact. And I think that that's important. None of that necessarily is going to lead to the Patriots winning 10 games versus 8 games or winning 13 games versus 11 games. But it is important. As a guy who you want to build your franchise around for the foreseeable future, Mac Jones at least does the CEO type stuff well. Mack Wilson also said that Mac Jones has a swagger. We didn't get to see that a whole lot in 2021, but maybe we'll see more of it in 2022. Speaking of swagger, did you see the note that Mac Jones, I believe it's top 5 in the NFL in jersey sales over like the last year? That shocks me. Mac may have the internal swagger and he may appeal to Patriots fans, but I can't imagine like Mac Jones appealing nationally. I mean, fine, a lot of Patriots fans needed to replace Tom Brady and Cam Newton jerseys, so there were Patriots fans that just needed to get jerseys. So I understand a high volume of Mac Jones jerseys being sold, but to be top 5, you have to have league-wide appeal. You have to appeal to all fan bases. And I don't know that I saw that, right? Like, Patrick Mahomes appeals to all fan bases. Justin Herbert right now has wowed the league, appeals to all fan bases. DK Metcalf, Kyler Murray. These are the kind of guys that appeal to all fan bases. I don't know that I got that impression from Mac Jones. I really didn't. But top 5 NFL jersey sales. Can we pull up the exact list, please, everybody? Let's see. All right, I think this is the Tom Brady is number 1, I think. So, Brady's on the list. Okay, that is not the full list, but Brady is up there. So, all right, I'm not going to waste more of your time looking for the exact list, but maybe we'll pull it out after the commercial break. But yeah, I do not see Mac Jones being a guy who is that revered. Okay, here you go. Tom Brady was 1. Patrick Mahomes was 2. Josh Allen was 3. Joe Burrow was 4. That I can see. Mac Jones 5. Then Dak Prescott, George Kittle, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, TJ Watt, CeeDee Lamb, Aaron Donald, Nick Chubb. Brady, he appeals to everybody. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Burrow. All that makes sense to me. Mac Jones, I don't think he's on their level. He's not as good as those players, and wasn't as personable as those players. So that really did surprise me. Good for Mac. Good for the Patriots. Apparently, they do have a much more marketable quarterback than I gave them credit for. But I was happy to see Mac Jones on that list. So, we get a message here that says, Sean Wade says they called Mac money-making Mac in high school. So, Mac Jones, I told you, he resonates with players. Players do seem to like him. Kyle Van Noy was on the Pat McAfee show today and said he loves Mac Jones and thinks that he's going to be great. So he does appeal to his teammates. That's a huge benefit. Doesn't mean the Pats are going to go to the Super Bowl because of it, but I'd certainly rather him make that impact rather than not. When we come back, first off, national news update. Then we'll come back. We'll check in with the NBA. Kyrie Irving, just stop talking. Just stop talking, because it's not stop talking. It's have some self-awareness. I should amend that. Have some self-awareness. He continues to not. I'll tell you what Kyrie had to say next on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 90 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
Bumpy ride on Wall Street this week, and today markets ended the day lower again. But some good news when it comes to jobs. CBS's Jason Brooks with details.
Employers continue to raise pay in an attempt to keep current workers happy and attract new talent. The government reported that wages were up 5.5% in April from a year earlier, coming in at just under $32 an hour. The economy added 428,000 jobs last month, which was better than expected. But there was a record 11.5 million job openings in March as employers continue to struggle to fill out their staffing during the Great Resignation.
President Biden announced another security package for Ukraine. Russia claims the U.S. is in a proxy war with them by giving Ukraine weapons and training their military. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby responding.
This is a war that Russia started on Ukraine. It's a war of choice that Mr. Putin chose to wage against the people of Ukraine, against the Ukrainian armed forces. That's the war. And it doesn't matter how much Mr. Putin wants to advance the rhetoric that it's somehow the West versus Russia or that his national security was threatened. It wasn't.
Former Defense Secretary Mark Esper will be on 60 Minutes on Sunday, where he made comments about Russia's president.
These last couple months, I think another strategic failure for Vladimir Putin is he's now pushing Sweden and Finland to join the alliance.
President Biden meets virtually with Ukrainian President Zelensky Sunday. Wildfires continue to rage in New Mexico. Governor Michelle Grisham.
This fire is moving, and it's moving some areas a mile a minute. It's moving quickly.
CBS's Scott McFarlane now on the 2020 election. Afterwards, social media sites were flooded by warnings of possible violence.
A review by the Government Accountability Office found some of the first warnings were spotted by the feds on social media as early as August 2020. It says the Parler social media platform handed over records to investigators from Christmas Eve 2020, indicating possible violence, and that there was a Secret Service alert January 4th. Congress ordered this review as it investigates what red flags were raised and which were ignored.
It's almost time for the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. To Louisville International Airport in Kentucky and WLKY's Munash Kwanwari.
It's time for the 148th Kentucky Derby.
It's the best horse race in the nation.
One by one, thousands of guests will be coming through the terminal, getting offered a Woodford Reserve candy before getting to the real stuff.
We're a little late for our bourbon tasting, so...
Mint juleps, get them ready.
I'll take a mint julep and a pimento cheese sandwich. This is CBS News.
There's always something new under the sun. CBS Mornings, weekdays on CBS.
When we need support, Vermonters know we can count on community. And when Vermont's community service providers need support, they count on the Vermont Community Loan Fund. For 35 years, VCLF has specialized in lending to community facilities and nonprofit service providers, including rural health centers, assisted living facilities, early care and learning programs, arts and cultural organizations, and even a historic general store or two. VCLF's flexible financing helps them do what they do best, guaranteeing access to essential quality of life services for all Vermonters. Vermont nonprofits and community facilities can count on the Vermont Community Loan Fund, so you can count on them. Isn't that what community is all about? Find out what the nonprofit lending specialists at the Vermont Community Loan Fund can do for your community at investinvermont.org. That's investinvermont.org.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
How appropriate of a song, shipping up to Boston. Red Sox baseball comes up here in about 5.5 minutes on WDEV. We'll get you the lineups here momentarily. The show brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training, online at prodrivercdl.com. They are Vermont's premier truck driver training school. The lack of self-awareness from Kyrie Irving just continues to be mind-boggling. Here's what he was talking about on some podcast somewhere about kind of being the face of the vaccine, anti-vax resistance, whatever.
I was not expecting, a mandate to be brought down in a way that it wasn't going to allow me to play at all. Like, I had the opportunity to play away games still, but there was no plan in place. There was no vision of like how it's going to work for our team. And I think that really impacted not just me, but a lot of people. So, just had to sit in that hot seat for a little bit and deal with it, man. Life of a martyr, bro.
Life of a martyr, Kyrie says. Kyrie had said all season that he didn't want to really be the face of the anti-vax movement. That's like what he said all season. Like, I'm sure if I went through and looked at Kyrie Irving audio that we have in our system here, I'm sure I would find here. Kyrie Irving on October 14th.
On the court, first thing, what's being said about me particularly or for anybody, it's just saying, I'm standing with all those that, believe in what's right and are doing what's right for themselves. Everybody has a personal choice with their lives. Everybody has a right to feel a certain type of way. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. Everybody's entitled to do what they feel is best for themselves, and putting me as a hero or painting me as a villain, sort of say, or going against the vaccine mandates. Like that wasn't my intent at all.
That wasn't my intent, he says. Like, it was, don't paint me as a hero, don't paint me as a villain. That's what he said. October 14th, Kyrie Irving says, don't paint me as a hero, don't paint me as a villain. But today, here we are, May 6th. What's the end of that say?
Just had to sit in that hot seat for a little bit and deal with it, man. Life of a martyr, bro.
Life of a martyr. A martyr means that you are standing up for something and you are taking the heat because of it. Kyrie Irving's telling you 6 months ago, I don't want to be this guy. I'm making a decision, but I don't want to be the face of anything. When you're the martyr, you essentially are the face of something. Just the lack of self-awareness continues to just astound me. Ralph says, Irving is a disaster. I would never want him on my team. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today. Kyrie Irving is great for the NBA. Great for the NBA. He's controversial. He's brilliant as a player. We love to talk about him. Kyrie drives conversation. He's great for the NBA. He's great for the media around the NBA. He's not great for the teams that he's actually on. He, wanted out of Cleveland. He helped blow that thing up. Now, they won a title, so I got to give him credit to that, obviously, but he helped ruin the Caps. Then he helped ruin Boston, and thus far he has helped ruin Brooklyn. I mean, Kyrie Irving is great for the league. He is not great for the teams that he is on. Celtics, however, they were great when they beat Kyrie and swept them out of the first round. They're going to take on the Bucks tomorrow at 3:30. That series is tied at 1 game apiece. Marcus Smart looks like he will be good to go in that series. He said that I believe I will be, all signs trend towards me playing. Feels good. Couple of days off between this. So game 2 was on Tuesday. Game 3 on Saturday. A couple of days off. Certainly, we're going to help him. Red Sox baseball comes up 90 seconds from now. Sox welcome the White Sox to town. So let's take a look at your lineup here from Fenway Park. Hold on, don't lose the music. My mistake. 11-13 are the Pale Hose. The Sox are 10-16. Vince Velasquez pitches for Chicago. Nathan Eovaldi pitches for Boston. Velasquez 1-2 with a 4.58. Eovaldi 1-0 with a 2.51. Tim Anderson leads off for the White Sox. A.J. Pollock is in right field. The former Vermont Mountaineer, he bats second. Jose Abreu is at first. Luis Robert is back in the lineup for Chicago in center. Yasmani Grandal is the designated hitter, hitting 169. Gavin Sheets is in left. Jake Berger's at third. Reese McGuire, the catcher, and Leori Garcia is at second. The White Sox are without multiple starters, so they are without right now Eloy Jimenez, who's out for a minimum of 2 months. They're without Yohan Moncada as well, so that's where you see a lineup with a lot of pieces you haven't really heard of much here. But the Sox, again, come in here having won a couple of games here in a row. Nathan Eovaldi 1-0 with a 2.51 ERA. Again, the Red Sox have not put out their official lineup on MLB.com, but we have seen it somewhere. So I know that Jaron Duran is leading off. I know that Trevor Story is hitting second. Let's see if we can find it real quickly here before we head home for the day. But, nope, cannot see it right now. So we'll have to wait for the official pregame show right now.
This is the Red Sox Network. This is the Visit Massachusetts